What is good, everybody? Welcome back. This is another episode of Let's Talk Dynasty brought to you by the League FFB. Today, we're going to be going live, doing a live team audit. So hopefully everybody is excited for that. We put in our Discord that we were going to be doing this. We got submissions from our Discord, and our guy Spacenfeld gave us a team. He says, audit this team, man. Gave us the criteria. I got it all pulled up. But let's get Warren here, man, and let's start talking about it before we get into the team audit. I think there's a little bit of news that we should cover. Let's get Warren here, man. What's good,
Yes,
man?
sir. We're in here. We
How
are
you doing?
in the building.
How
And
you
let me
doing, man?
know if we're going through a war right now with the technology. So let me know if you can't hear me, and
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
you can hear me, but I can't hear myself.
You can't hear me, though. Can you hear me, War?
Yes,
Okay.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You got a little bit quieter, but I think we're all good if your mics are ready.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm good to go. I am good to go.
Okay, all right. Man said he was confident when I asked if he wanted to test the equipment. So,
Yeah, my confidence is shot now. My confidence is shot now.
all righty. Well, G16, how's it going, man? Appreciate you being here, checking it out, man. But first and foremost, War, we got some news. I said we had some news, and biggest news of the week so far: Odell Beckham Jr. The domino has fallen, and he is a Baltimore Raven. So, talk to me about Odell going to Baltimore. Does this mean Lamar's going back? Is that does that give you confidence in this?
I heard that Lamar actually actively recruited OBJ, so I think that kind of helps all signs point to Lamar returning to Baltimore. I don't think OBJ would have signed had had Lamar not given him some type of guarantee that he would be coming back.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, as far as fantasy stuff goes for Odell Beckham, I almost said Lamar. As far as Odell Beckham goes, uh, this isn't a great fantasy landing spot because you would have to assume, at least the way that I am operating, I am assuming that Rashad Bateman is still the one. He's the wide receiver one for the team. I don't think that
You
Odell is.
think so?
I do, and so I'm operating that way, and I don't think it I don't think it helps Rashad Bateman. Um, I don't think it hurts him either. I think at the end of the day, man, Baltimore has kind of been. Now, I do want to preface this by saying that we are no longer seeing an offense that is going to be called by Greg Roman. That those days are gone. So whatever we know about Baltimore is not happening anymore. The Greg Roman days are going to be over. So there is hope, but I think right now, man, the ceiling for Bateman and the ceiling for OBJ is probably just a low end wide receiver two right now. I think that's the ceiling.
Yes, I agree. Man, that's just a completely screwed up situation. If you ask me, if I would not want a wide receiver from Baltimore right now. Absolutely
Yeah,
not.
agreed. And then only other thing that I think is somewhat newsworthy is we gonna play the game, smoke screen or no smoke screen, or what are we hearing now with the NFL draft? Because we are just 2.5 weeks away from NFL draft, and we're hearing that the Carolina Panthers are pretty set on going Bryce Young. Do you think it's a smoke screen?
Um, y- that's kind of tough because I really do think they like C.J. Stroud more than they like Bryce Young. To be honest, so I'm thinking it is a smoke screen. But what would the purpose of the smoke screen serve in this case?
Yeah, I mean, you have the first pick, so it doesn't matter what you throw out there at this point because who's stopping you? Unless you're really trying to bait somebody to move up and then you move back, but that would be I feel like that would be way too complex and way too risky for the Carolina Panthers. I think you've already given a haul. You got to go up and you got to get your guy, whoever it is. I don't really care who you think it is. If Frank Reich believes that it's Anthony Richardson is the guy, then you have to go get him because you gave away everything to go get it. And I say everything very dramatically, but you gave away a lot to go get your franchise guy. Go pick him. I don't really care who it is, but for what it's worth, I do still have Bryce Young as my number one quarterback in the class as far as NFL goes. For fantasy, I think it's a little bit closer than NFL, but I think Bryce Young is still the best guy in the class. So I do not hate the idea of them going to get Bryce number one.
I don't hate it. I just think I don't know, man. I don't know if it's see. Here's the thing, letting you behind the curtain about Andrew. Andrew is a big believer, is or was a big believer in Kyler Murray. On the other hand, I think that Bryce Young is very small. And like I think I would lean CJ Stroud. I mean, I think Bryce does have the biggest talent in the draft as far as quarterbacks, but I think it's almost safer to take CJ Stroud.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you on that one. I think CJ is the safest quarterback prospect in the class. I think his floor is probably the highest of all of them. And so it just believes on what you think the ceiling is for CJ Stroud. I think CJ is going to be fantastic. I just think Bryce is going to be fantastic as well. That's the way that I see it. I think Bryce is a ball placement specialist. He's very, very, very good in the pocket. As chaos is creating around him at times, he's able to just step up, make the right read, make the right decision. He puts balls on a leash. Like, I think Bryce Young is fantastic. He's just smart as hell. He's going to be a great quarterback in the NFL. Whether he's going to be a superstar like Joe Burrow guy, TBD. But I think Bryce Young is going to be. I think he's going to be a very good quarterback in the NFL. And so that's all I got to say about that.
I mean, I can't really disagree with you too much on that. I mean, like it's definitely this is an interesting quarterback draft, to be honest. I do want to touch on another rumor that I heard.
Okay.
And I think that the rumor is about someone moving up to number 3 to get that pick from the Cardinals. And I kind of just wonder who would they be moving up to draft? I mean, I would think that the consensus would probably be Anthony Richardson at number 3, but who would be the team that's moving up? I heard that the Titans do have interest in Will Levis, but I think they're thinking more so if he falls to them. So this is going to be an interesting draft for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I heard 6 teams were interested or were calling Arizona at one point, 6 teams total, to go in and move up. And I'm pretty sure one of them was Minnesota. So that would be interesting. But I don't, for what it's worth, man, I would rather just see Minnesota move back. I tweeted it today. I said, this is one of the few years that I actually want us to move back. All these other years I've wanted a prospect and we've moved back, but this year let's just move back. It's deep. So go get that second round pick back that we gave up for Hawkinson. But let's not waste any more time. I want to get into the team audit because we do have an interesting team here. And I see G16. He said that he just joined the Discord and he put in his roster. So if we needed another one, he's there. And he said tonight, we're not going to have time tonight, but we might do another team audit here in the future. We might make this something we do every once in a while. So I got the team here. I'm going to pull it up. We'll run through it. And then you and I will just start giving our opinions. Let me see what we got. So here is the roster and starting lineup. Let's talk a little league context first. Actually, he says it's a 12-team league, half point per reception, and there's a half point tight end bonus. So very similar to our leagues that we were playing in Tea Party War. He said he was second place last year, trying to go get a championship. He has some solid draft capital, like you see. But overall, this is the lineup. He has Lamar Jackson and Justin Fields at quarterback. QB3 is Andy Dalton. But the running back room, Dalvin Cook, Cam Akers, James Conner, Antonio Gibson, Michael Carter. Wide receivers, this is one of the best wide receiver cores that I've seen in a minute. And it's Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Garrett Wilson, Treylon Burks, Jahan Dotson, Deontay Johnson, Wan'Dale Robinson, KJ Hamler, and so on. And then tight end, keep in mind this is a half-point premium. He has Cole Kmet, Gerald Everett, and he's got Bellinger over there on the taxi squad. But the 102 this year, the 106, 201, 202, and the 206. So 5 picks in the top 17 rookies for this year. He wants to go win a championship war. So let's just break down position group by position group. How do you feel about that quarterback room with Lamar, Justin Fields, and Andy Dalton?
Okay, the first thing I want to say is that this is going to be fun. That team is very similar to one of the teams I have in one of my leagues because I also have Justin Fields, Lamar Jackson, JJ as my wide receiver one. So I think I could provide some good insight on this team. So you were asking, how do I feel about the quarterback room?
Yeah, I mean, he has Lamar. So I guess the first big question is, how do we feel about Lamar?
I feel okay. So based off of me and his quarterback room being similar, my quarterback room is Lamar, Justin, and Jimmy Garoppolo.
Okay.
So I feel pretty good about my situation. I think I'll be honest, I felt a lot worse about the quarterback situation until this morning. We know, considering the thing with OBJ signing, and I feel a little bit better about it now because if you get both of those guys, Lamar Jackson, Justin Fields, you get them most weeks, you're going to put up some numbers because you get the premium rushing numbers from both of the quarterbacks and you get the passing yards. I think Justin Fields, and I promised myself I wasn't going to go bare heavy in this, but this is going to be one of my few mentions. The guy has Justin Fields. What do you want me to do?
Yeah.
I think that Justin Fields is going to take a step up in the passing department this season. So I think you're going to get that as well. So you're getting the rushing from both positions. You're getting the step up in passing from Justin Fields. And you're probably going to get a similar, if not slightly better, passing performance this upcoming season with Lamar Jackson, considering if he gets back to training camp and there's no rust and there's no extended holdout. I feel pretty good about his quarterback room, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I do too, and I think really where I was toying with the idea in my mind when I first saw the roster. It was like, okay, so he's a contending team. He wants to go win a championship. How confident am I that Lamar is going to give me that opportunity this year? And I think just like you said, I'm pretty confident that Lamar is going to be playing good football this year. Whether Lamar is a guy that you want to tie as like your franchise guy for the next 3 to 5 years in Dynasty, I don't know. But if you're a contending team, it's really hard to find guys who can score fantasy points like Lamar Jackson. And so I think when I look at it and I say, we got Lamar, we got Justin Fields, I'm good there. I don't want to move those guys. These guys score a lot of fantasy points, and we're going all in to win this championship. And, I think the way that I want to take the team, and you tell me if you are opposed to this, but I think the way that we should try and take the team and build the team is be aggressive to try and win the championship this year, but let's not throw away all of the future draft capital. I don't want to like go all in and have nothing in the future, but I want to get pretty aggressive to try and win the championship this year because he said he came in second place and he has the roster. I mean, he's got youth on the team. There's CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, Garrett Wilson. Like, he has youth. Let's go attack it. Let's try and win a championship with this roster.
I looked at his roster earlier when you sent it to me, and I already know the first asset that I'm going to try to move to get a player on the team if I can.
Okay. We did have a question in here, and it looks like the guy himself has made it in. So he says, sorry, I'm late, but I made it. So appreciate you jumping in, Space and Field. Go ahead and give us any context as we come. If there's something we're missing, go ahead and drop it in the chat. And then we did have one question from Madden's Past. He says, how would you value Ayuk in a 12-team Superflex league? And hey, I'm an Ayuk guy right now. He's one of my guys. If you want to go watch a video, go watch Dynasty Darling's video. I give more in detailed analysis about Ayuk. But I would say right now, I would give any of these late first round picks this year for Ayuk. I'd give any of the late first round picks.
The funny thing is, on the team that actually is similar to his team that we're doing right now, I had Ayuk. I moved him. I
For what?
moved him.
Oh yeah, you told me.
Yeah, I moved him in a package for Austin Eckler. So I mean,
Yeah.
I for some reason I've amassed a lot of old running backs that are still useful on that team, but I feel like that's the type. If I'm moving him in a package for a guy like Eckler, because I'm in the same situation. I'm trying to win now with the team I have. So bringing in Eckler, I mean, he said it himself. The worst case scenario, he plays one more season with the Chargers. So
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to win now,
And gives you
so
what,
I can
top
move.
5 fantasy numbers?
Yeah, yeah.
So
And I mean, and my two top receiver, JJ and Terry McLaurin. I think I have Hollywood Brown too. So I mean, I
okay.
think it was a good idea to move Ayuk for that type of player because I'm set at wide receiver.
Yeah. But yeah, to answer that question, I think I would give any late first round pick this year. I think anything 108, maybe 107, depending on your league and maybe your need for quarterback. But I think 108 and beyond, I'd give any of those picks for Brandon Ayuk because I think Ayuk's a stud. And as far as draft capital goes, I think that's the easiest way to try and evaluate him. And for me, it's a late first this year or beyond. I'd probably give any 2024 first if it wasn't going to be guaranteed in the top 3. But let's get back to this roster, man. We've kind of beat around the bush, but you said you had a move in mind, so I'm going to pull it up. You tell me, who did you have in mind when you said you looked at it and saw somebody you wanted to trade?
Okay, so the first thing I would look at here, looking at his draft capital, is I would definitely try to see who in the league, because every league has them. There has to be some pick junkies in your league,
Mhm.
guys who just desperately want to amass as many first and second rounders as they possibly can. And the first place I'm looking, I'm starting at the bottom. I'm starting with trying to move 2.6 and see if I can get a player that's a little bit undervalued to bring onto the roster. I definitely would try to do, and I don't know if someone would do this, especially if they watch one of our earlier videos. If I could somehow get 2.6 and maybe move a guy like Cam Akers, because I don't believe in Cam Akers at all, or James Conner, one of those guys, to get a guy like Miles Sanders and put Miles Sanders in there with Dalvin Cook. I think that would be like, that is a guy you definitely want to buy and add to this roster, is a guy like Miles Sanders. I think that a player like that could put you over the top. And if you can move 2.6, depending on who has Miles Sanders, and get a guy like that, I think that'd be great because you're set at wide receiver, man.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I think the wide receiver room, um, I even think you have a little bit more than you need in this wide receiver room. So I wouldn't be
Yeah,
opposed to maybe even taking one of these guys and sending them off for a different position. But
Trayvon Diggs.
you mentioned wanting to potentially move that 206. And so take it for what it's worth. Some people love it, some people hate it. I like to use it as a reference, but I'm gonna reference Keep Trade Cut here because what it is consensus, community voted evaluations of players. Now, this doesn't mean that this is what they're worth in your league because every league has its own market. Every player that has an asset on their team has a different evaluation of that guy. So I'm just using it as a general number, a evaluation just to give you reference. But you say move that 206. So I pulled up, mid 2023 second to see what it's worth. What are the guys that are in that range? And some names that pop up that kind of intrigue me are Darren Waller, Alvin Kamara, Jimmy Garoppolo, Joe Mixon, Keenan Allen, uh, Aaron Rodgers. Some of those names kind of intrigue me. Even a little bit lower is guys like Cortland Sutton, Gabe Davis, Tyler Lockett, Jacoby Myers. Now, I think we said his wide receiver room was pretty good. I mean, we don't really need to go add another wide receiver, I don't think, to this room. But how sold are we on Cole Kmet as his championship tight end? I'm not very sold.
You're asking me.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean, let's be
definitely. I
honest.
would. I definitely. Okay, here's the thing. Here's the thing, man. Pull back up his team. Pull back up his team.
Okay.
Okay. Cole Kmet. Okay. The one thing I'm looking at with his picks, under no circumstances with this team am I moving 1.2, 1.6, or 2.1. I feel like he can get guys that'll help him this year and in the future with those picks.
Agreed.
Um, and I think this is a deep, deep, deep tight end draft. I think you can get a tight end at 2.1, and you could kind of just platoon Cole Kmet and whoever you draft at that spot. I know tight ends usually take 2, 3 years to develop, but Cole Kmet is a serviceable tight end. And if you're going to move somebody, you should definitely try to get. You got Gerald Everett, but yeah, you know, um, you can move one of these wide receivers, Traylon Burks, and get a good tight end, I would do that. But I definitely, with this team, I would take a platoon approach to the tight end position and throw one of my top second round pick at drafting one.
Yeah. So if we're looking at trading the 206, which I'm totally on board with that, I think trading the 206, that guy is not necessarily going to help you win a championship this year. And I think this roster is ready to roll. So, I really don't mind sending that 206 instead of drafting a tight end at 206. I feel like I'd rather just send it for Darren Waller. He already has Daniel Bellinger on the taxi squad. So if Darren Waller does get hurt or anything like that, he has Daniel Bellinger. And so I think Darren Waller, I think he's going to have a pretty good year. He's the best receiving option in that offense right now. There's possibility that Darren Waller finishes top 5 at the tight end position. And if you can go get him for the 206, why not?
If you can go get him for that, yeah. Yeah, I mean, but there's going to be guys out there who are going to understand that the Giants' whole receiving offense is probably going to go through Darren Waller. So, I mean, if you could catch someone sleeping and get Darren Waller for 2.6, I would definitely do the same thing. He's in the same category with Miles Sanders. Guys who
Yeah.
you probably looked at last season and said, this guy's falling off. But due to situational value, they're starting to, you could probably catch some people off guard and acquire these guys.
Yeah. And then my second move that I really would look at that 206, I think, is similar range in evaluation is Jimmy G. Now his quarterback 3, I know this is building it just like your team is right now, but his quarterback 3 is Andy Dalton. And I think he mentioned to me in the Discord that he was considering using the 102 on a quarterback. And I think
like
I don't know if I like that, because the 102 with a team that has Lamar and Justin Fields, you're drafting a quarterback to put on your bench. You're not going to start whoever you draft at 102 over Lamar and Justin Fields.
That's true.
So I think that you should trade that 206. Maybe you have to throw. I think he had 2 24 seconds. He has 2 24 seconds. Maybe you have to throw one of those in. And you go get a backup quarterback, a Kirk Cousins, a Jimmy Garoppolo, one of these guys that we know is kind of there, but there might be a future plan coming in. You know what I mean? Like, go get one of those guys, maybe an Aaron Rodgers. I don't know if I want to go bid on Aaron Rodgers right now, but you could even go get a guy like let's see, I'm scrolling around just trying to find. You could go get a Mac Jones or a Kenny Pickett, somebody that people don't necessarily believe in right now, but they're young enough. You're only going to play them if there's a bye week or an injury. And then you can use that 102 on like a skill position player that's going to make a difference for the roster that you're going to start every week. So that's something that I would consider. I think if I wasn't using that 206 to go find my to beef up my tight end room or go find my starting championship tight end, I'd be using it to go fill that QB3 spot, and then I'd be using that 102 for a better position than quarterback.
I could definitely see that we have some roster building differences when it comes to his roster. Because here's my issue. And I guess it's going to sound silly of me because I'm the one who acquired Jimmy G for my team. I have a concern about having the 3 quarterbacks on my team all having somewhat injury concerns. Justin Fields having the least of injury concerns. I mean, it could get real ugly fast and derail his entire season if 2 of those 3 guys get hurt at the same time. So I mean, Jimmy G is an injury risk. That's why, yeah, you're gonna be playing a guy and sitting him down and only putting him in for bye weeks, but I think taking a quarterback with one of those high picks gives you a little bit of value now because hopefully the plan is for the other 2 guys not to get injured. So you just got a guy in there for bye week and setting you up for the future because while Justin Fields' future seems really bright, Lamar's isn't as bright as Justin Fields. I mean, we were even talking about possibly Lamar sitting out a whole season. So those are definitely some things to think about. That's how I feel as far as
So he actually just chimed in. He says, I like the Waller move. The guy with Waller is definitely in rebuild, so it might be easy to go get Darren Waller. He says getting a QB3 though might be a little tough knowing his league mates. So yeah, I mean, I think if you can go get Darren Waller for the 206, I think more weeks than not you're going to be starting Darren Waller over Cole Kmet. I think most weeks, honestly.
Oh yeah. I mean, now don't get it twisted. There's big breakout potential for Cole Kmet. Like I've seen, like he had a couple of like 3 touchdown games last season. So I mean,
All on my bench.
but I definitely agree with Andrew. I think Waller. It's definitely going to be a situation if you happen to have Waller and Kmet. It's definitely a situation where you're starting Waller, and then if something happened where Cole Kmet just goes on a consistent tear, then maybe you could bench Kmet or maybe even start both of those guys. Like I'm not scared to start 2 tight ends.
He has the 2 flex, and he's getting the half-point bonus for the receptions. We do got a question here. G16 says, I traded Deshaun Watson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and George Pickens in a late 24 first for Mahomes in a 10-team super flex. Maybe an overpay, but everyone overvalues their players in that league. Herbert is my other QB, so I'm setting out thoughts.
I don't see that as an overpay.
I mean, you're getting the best quarterback in football, the best quarterback in the NFL, the best quarterback in Dynasty fantasy football. You're getting the 101, I think.
Let's break down what he traded. He traded
Watson.
He traded a guy who may suck now. He traded a wide receiver that, while great right now, is in danger of losing targets. And he's trading. He has a wide receiver who may or may not have a quarterback, and he traded a late 2024 first. One is not even this year, and it's late, so we're not even talking about Caleb Williams or something like that. And you're getting back Mahomes. Like,
I mean, I think value wise, yeah, sure, it's probably a little bit of an overpay, but I think when you get guys like Mahomes or Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts or any of those top quarterbacks, you have to overpay a little bit if you want to go get them. You telling me that you have Justin Herbert as your other QB in a super flex where you have Mahomes and Justin Herbert, you're set for like 10 years, dude. Like you don't gotta address that quarterback position pretty much the entirety of the life of that league anymore. So I think you should be fine. I'd be happy with the move. War and I have different opinions on Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think Amon-Ra is that dude, but I don't think he gave up too much. I wouldn't be too upset about it. In fact, I would overpay it a little bit to go get that. And then Space says, Sanders or Waller feels like the move. There's also a chance Bijan falls to the 102. Wild, I know. And I would say that if Bijan falls to your 102, I would be drafting him immediately on this team.
If there's a way let's be honest. If there's a reality where you can actually get all three of those guys on your roster, and I think there is, because you still have 2.2, which I wouldn't be afraid to move. Like 1.2, 1.6, and 2.1, I definitely am keeping those and drafting. But 2.2 and 2.6, I'll be willing to move for win now moves. Um, I'm not trading 2.2 for Miles Sanders. Like I would definitely need to get some extra compensation back from the
Hmm.
person I'm trading to, because I'm just making the assumption that the person who has Sanders is sleeping on Sanders. I'm making that assumption.
Yeah.
Bijan, no matter what. Yes.
Yes,
Bijan, no
absolutely.
matter what. Because if
Um,
you get Bijan at 1.2, there's still quarterbacks you can draft at 1.6. There will be quarterbacks there.
Yeah, and I mean, like we said, man, you're drafting your quarterback 3, so even if it's Will Levis, like, it is
Yeah.
what it is. You're getting Will Levis's QB3, and I think the upside of Will Levis is still high. It's just a probability of is it going to happen. I mean, the kid is raw, but the arm talent is insane. I mean, he's got a cannon. He can move. Um, and it's not really. I'm not sitting here to just talk rookies, but the reality of it is that the fourth quarterback in this class off the board could be the best quarterback. That's just the way I view this class. Is the fourth quarterback in the class might be the best quarterback, and we just don't know. Um, Assuming that all of them get good draft capital, I want to see, and analytically, the data shows that you need your quarterbacks to get top 10 draft capital. If they get top 10 draft capital in the NFL, they're more likely to produce quarterback one seasons in fantasy football. So that is a good piece of knowledge to take
Yes.
into your rookie drafts. But I wanted to look at this roster. So let's just look at the starting lineup war. Um,
Hmm.
we've kind of talked about it a little bit. We said we're going to keep Lamar. We said we're going to keep Justin Fields. Um, as a contending team, I would have to say that Dalvin Cook is worth more on this roster than you're going to get in the trade market.
Yeah. I was
Uh,
actually can I add to the Dalvin Cook bit that you just had?
yeah,
I was just looking at that, and I think a goal that you should have for your team is to somehow make it to where Dalvin Cook almost is in a flex role. Like, let's say, for instance, Bijan falls to number two. You get Bijan, you're able to acquire Miles Sanders. I think Miles Sanders is going to outperform Dalvin Cook this season. I just think, and then so if you do that now, you have Dalvin Cook sitting in one of your flex spots. So I mean,
yeah.
I think that's a really good deal there.
Yeah. And 102, he says maybe Bijan's there. So if you get Miles Sanders, Bijan, and Dalvin Cook in the flex, I think your running back room is set, man. At least to go into the playoffs. But I wanted to pull it up. So I think we're gonna keep Dalvin for now.
Mhm.
You want to you kind of at this point, look, I know he's a Vikings fan. Um, there's gonna be sentimental value there too. Just let Dalvin die on your roster, man. Let him age out on
Yeah,
your roster. You're not gonna get more for him than he's worth in the trade market. And he, as a contender, he's worth more. I have Dalvin Cook on a team too, where I'm a contending team, and I've tried to go out and trade Dalvin Cook to reset the age in my running back room, but it's just not worth it. You're gonna have to trade him at a loss, and if you're contending, the production's worth more than trading at a loss. So as we move down, we're obviously keeping. Are we going to explore a trade for Cam Akers?
yeah. I'm okay. Yeah, I'm moving Cam Akers. Cam Akers is actually one of two players in this starting lineup that I would look to move.
Okay.
He's definitely, and I don't know what you can even get for Cam Akers, but I would feel nauseated. I wouldn't feel comfortable at all with Cam Akers as even as a starter on my team. Like Cam Akers either needs to be off of this roster or on your bench.
I'm not a big Cam Akers guy either. And
I'm still, I'm
I'm pulling
still,
him up. Let's
Drew.
see.
I'm still confused about what happened to the guy when he disappeared like for like an entire season. Like I'm still I still don't know what happened. I still don't know. Like I've heard the wildest rumors about why the guy wasn't playing, and he's still
Yeah.
on that team. And I can't imagine that him and the coach of all of a sudden buddies. I'm pretty sure they're going to draft a running back. Yeah, Cam Akers. If whatever you can get or throw him into a deal for, man, get that guy out of there.
Yeah, so I'm looking at trade markets for Cam Akers and kind of where he's being evaluated at. And some names that are in a similar range. And let me just make sure. Some of these guys are being valued a little bit higher, some of them a little bit lower, but this is a general range for you. You got Rashad Bateman, Aaron Jones, Mike Williams, DeAndre Hopkins, Elijah Moore, Mike Evans, Kadarius Toney, Tyler Algier, James Cook, AJ Dillon, Keenan Allen, Joe Mixon, Jimmy Garoppolo. That's kind of the range that you're looking at. And I think right off the rip, I definitely would not be opposed to going to the Aaron Jones manager and saying, hey, let's swap Cam for Aaron Jones.
If you can get that, yeah. Yeah, if you
Because
can get that, absolutely.
I think, now call me crazy, because the age difference is pretty significant between Cam Akers. I mean, Cam's going to be 24 this year. Aaron Jones is 28. There's a 4-year difference. But I think that the shelf life of the two is going to be pretty similar. I mean, you're going to get probably 2 years out of Cam Akers. You're going to get 1 to 2 years out of Aaron Jones, I think. But I think Aaron Jones is going to score more fantasy points for you in this championship title run. And as long as you're doing your due diligence, maybe at that 201, you can land a guy like Zach Charbonnet and plug him in behind these older Dalvin Cook and Aaron Jones. You're doing fine. And keep in mind, he has 2 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks in 2024. You can replace your running back next year. Like in that draft class, you have two firsts and 2 seconds. So I think getting a guy like Aaron Jones might be a little bit better for you. I think I'm not even opposed to going and getting a guy like Mike Williams. I think Mike Williams with Justin Herbert would be fine. You can plug Mike Williams into the flex, and I would be more confident with Mike Williams in my flex spot than probably a guy like Jahan Dotson.
Yeah. Quite honestly, I like Jahan Dotson, man.
I do too.
But I'm a little bit curious as to why he's starting Jahan Dotson over Deontay Johnson.
I wouldn't read too much into it. Let's see. He says, I got Cam Akers for the 211. Might be a sunk cost, but open to hearing some ideas. I mean, 211 isn't awful. I don't love Cam Akers as a prospect, but if you're just adding running back depth, I don't hate. There's worse guys you could get, but I think if you could flip Cam Akers for a guy like Aaron Jones or even a guy like D-Hop is going to play football this year, and D-Hop is going to go be the number one, whether that's in Arizona or whether it's going to be somewhere else. He's going to be the number one for whatever team is there, and I think he's going to produce more fantasy points than Cam Akers.
Yeah.
Even if you
I think Cam Akers is going to outright get replaced. Like his replacement is in the draft.
I was going to say that because I was going to say I think the moving Cam Akers probably needs to be done, and it's risky because you're going to be trying to trade for guys who also this could happen to. But I think moving Cam Akers probably needs to be done before draft day, because very real shot that they bring in competition for Cam Akers, or like through the draft, or even as a vet signing post draft, because you got to also remember that there's guys like Kareem Hunt and Jerick McKinnon and Zeke and all these other guys who were playing football and getting good minutes last year that haven't been signed. And there's a situation where maybe the Rams say, okay, we'll bring Zeke into this backfield for the $4 or $5 million that he wants and let him have a 1-year prove it deal. And Zeke takes touches from Cam Akers.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So
I can see that happening.
He said, I lied. I got Cam Akers and the 211 for McKinnon and Curtis Samuel. It's not bad. That's a good trade. But yeah, so I would be looking to move Cam Akers. And I know we said you're good at wide receiver, but moving off of Cam Akers to go get a wide receiver is probably the best bet, because I think those guys are going to be better for you. Hell, if I could trade Cam Akers for Keenan Allen, and Keenan Allen is being evaluated lower. He's worth less than Cam Akers. So you could get Keenan Allen and a piece to move Cam Akers over there. I would be more than happy to play Keenan Allen in my flex spot over Jahan Dotson or over Treylon Burks. And then I would then want to move one of them, either Dotson or Burks or Deontay, for maybe a running back or something else. Like just kind of flip it. You know what I mean? You got to make two separate trades to fix the room. But I want to bring up the roster again so we can keep moving our way down. But there's some options for Cam Akers. We're keeping Justin Jefferson, we're keeping CeeDee Lamb, we're keeping Garrett Wilson. That's not up for debate. That's the core of this roster. Cole Kmet, we kind of gave you some options there. I think you're either gonna trade for Darren Waller or maybe a guy like or get somebody in the draft or whatever. But I think that Darren Waller move is a really good move for this roster. As far as Treylon Burks and Jahan Dotson goes, how do we feel about both of those guys? You want
I
them on the
definitely
bench?
want. I want to put Dotson because first of all, I'm just looking at this as if this is my team. I definitely think Deontay Johnson is worthy of a flex spot, and I'm looking to move Treylon Burks, man. I just didn't see it last year, like with him, and I worry that his value won't be any better after this season. He's one of the guys I'll pinpoint to try to move for. I know you said you would try to move Akers for Hopkins or something like that. I'll try to get Hopkins plus for Treylon Burks, like if I can, because we're trying to win now. We're not trying to win later, and I just feel
Yeah.
like he's a bigger. It's almost like choosing between Burks and Dotson, and I just think that there's a higher chance of McLaurin ending up becoming the second option to Dotson in Washington once they actually have a wide receiver. And yeah, man, I think one of those guys should be traded, the other one should be moved over to the bench. And I think
Okay.
Deontay needs to be in that flex spot.
I mean, there's some solid moves you could make here too, man. Like being valued in the same range as Dotson is Dallas Goedert, Christian Kirk, Chris Godwin, George Kittle, Hollywood Brown, Damian Pierce, J.K. Dobbins, Deontay Johnson. That's some of the guys in the same range. To hell with the Darren Waller trade. I mean, if you can go get Dallas Goedert for, I mean, I don't know. How do you feel about Goddard versus Waller? I mean, Goddard's more expensive, but I feel like he's a better prospect for the longevity of the roster.
I think he's a little more trustworthy too, as far as like health.
Yeah,
I always got to take that into account.
yeah. And then a real possibility is you do have some draft capital flexibility. I mean, let's look at it again, right? We know you have the 102, the 106, the 201, the 202, right? We want to try and kind of use those on players, maybe add some depth to the roster. And then you have 2 firsts and 2 seconds in 2024. Who's to say you don't trade one of the firsts and one of the seconds to go get guys who can play this year? You know what I mean? So I'm not opposed to doing that with all of that. There's also a possibility of maybe you can take Treylon and Jahan and put them together and just upgrade completely at the wide receiver position.
Yeah.
Because if you did that, let me just plug it in right here. Some of the guys that would pop up in the same range is if you paired them together, it would be. I mean, come on, man, that doesn't even make sense. See, this is when I don't like Keep Trade Cut because that was too expensive. They said that you could get the 101 if you put both of them together, and I don't think that's true.
Yeah, no way.
But if you put them together, who's to say that you can't go get Drake London or Saquon or Travis Etienne or DK Metcalf? Who's to say you can't do that with both of them together?
His roster has a lot of potential as far as like moves that could be made. A lot of
Yeah.
potential. I mean, let's say, for instance, hypothetically that you were able to get like one of those guys from Treylon Burks and Dotson. We already talked about moving Dalvin down to a flex spot. You can
Mm-hmm.
put Deontay there. You can get the best running back you possibly could happen to get and put him in as your starting running back and draft Gibbs or Bijan at number 2. And then you're
Yeah,
set
or
at running back.
JSN. JSN. Do not disrespect JSN because I think he's
I'm
going to
I'm,
be a
I'm not.
stud.
I agree, but we're looking at it from the perspective that he has a wide receiver group that's already really, really good.
Yeah, yeah. Now,
So I
now,
mean,
what do you think about this idea? He says that the 102. He says there's a chance to get Bijan. I think this is maybe a trade that you think about on draft day. Now, say Bijan goes 101. So now 102, he's looking at Gibbs or JSN or quarterback, right? That's what we're looking at. You and I both think that he should just take quarterback at 6 and take the best skill player at 2. Maybe on draft day, you have a guy in your league that wants to come in and get CJ Stroud or wants to come get Bryce Young. So you can move that 102 back, gain a flex player or some extra value, and move it back 1 or 2 spots, still get JSN or still get Gibbs, and then still get your quarterback at 6, plus you're getting a piece thrown in because you moved back.
yeah, I mean his roster just has so many avenues to get better, uh, and
Yeah, I mean,
it is mainly because of those wide receivers, like those
because you don't
wide
have to
receivers
do
and those
anything.
quarterbacks. The fact that his only holes are maybe flex and running back. Him being set at quarterback in all 3 wide receiver spots. That's like that gives him a lot of latitude to make moves with his
A
roster.
ton. And I don't mind keeping Gibson and Carter on the bench. I don't mind keeping James
Yeah.
Conner on the bench. Because I think all of those guys are going to be valuable at some point during the season. I mean,
Yes. Good
so
bye week fill-ins.
good bye week fill-ins, injury fill-ins. I mean, there's who says that Brian Robinson doesn't get hurt week 3 and then Gibson
Right.
gets top 10 numbers the rest of the way? You know what I mean? Like we've seen Gibson be a top 12 back, top 12 back for 2 years before last year. So who's to say that Brian Robinson doesn't get hurt? Maybe even Brees needs a little bit of time to get fully healthy, so they're using Carter more
Yep.
at the beginning. Like there's flexibility. I would keep them. I'd keep Deontay. Hamler, I'm not opposed to going and trading Hamler. I'm not opposed to trading Wandale. I'm not
Yeah,
opposed to
I
trading.
think he should actually seek out trading Wandale.
Yeah, I do too.
If you want to give a brief explanation about your feelings about Wandale, I know you did a whole thing about him. Yeah, I think Wandale is definitely one of those guys. Like, if I can get reliable veteran depth for Wandale, I would do it.
Yeah, I mean, so my opinion on Wandale, man, is just that he's he's fine. He's a fine wide receiver. I think there's going to be guys in the league possibly that value him higher than what he's worth, just because he did show flashes last year at some points. Like there was probably a 2 to 3 weeks period there where he was really getting a ton of PPR numbers, but he was really the only option there, right? So I fully expect the Giants to address at least one wide receiver in the draft, whether that's day 1 or day 2, I don't know, but I fully expect them to go get somebody. I've been hearing rumors of Quentin Johnson, maybe Zay Flowers, maybe somebody else, right? But any of those guys that goes, I think they're a better player than Wandale Robinson. Then you add Darren Waller to the fact that he's going to be there. He's probably going to be the number 1 target for most of the year, if not all of the year. And now
Then
we're
you
looking at
take the
Wandale.
Daniel Jones step back.
Yeah, and then you take that. Hey, they also brought Saquon back, and like they want to run the ball. It's Wandale's fine, man, but I would much rather trade him. And as I go and I look through like where he's valued at, he's being valued higher than guys like Juju, Darnell Mooney, Alexander Madison, Jamal Williams, Dalton Schultz, Brandon Cooks for the Cowboys. Like he's being valued higher than those guys. And I think all of those guys are going to outscore Wandale Robinson.
I think Dalton Schultz will be a nice little move to acquire a player to acquire for Wandale. Like even if you still and you can still go and get a reliable guy to plug in as your starting tight end. I think if you get a room with, let's say for example, Goddard or Waller, in addition to Komet and Schultz, you're set. Because two of
Yeah,
those
and you
guys
can start
you
two
can
of them.
start, yeah, and then you have one that could protect you from injuries. I like that. That way you won't have to rely on Everett being like that guy.
Yeah, and I'm fully in. I think one of my favorites that I heard just from that list right there is I would be more than happy. Obviously, I love the Schultz one. I would be more than happy to send Wandell for Brandon Cooks
I
because
would too.
I know he has CD on the roster
Yeah,
already.
I thought that's why I didn't say Cooks, but Cooks would have been my top option had he not had CD already.
Yeah, I mean, I know he has that. I also think, look, you could go get a guy like let's see who's valued a little bit higher than Wandell that maybe you throw a piece in. He has a third next year, extra seconds next year. Maybe you throw something to upgrade. A couple guys ahead of him are like Tyler Lockett, Gabe Davis, Cortland Sutton, Keenan Allen's above him. Like maybe you take Wandell and a third and you go get Tyler Lockett because I think Tyler Lockett's going to be a 1,000-yard receiver again next year. And I would feel more confident playing Tyler Lockett in my flex spot than I might be more confident playing Tyler Lockett in my flex spot than I would be playing Traylon.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's going to probably get me crucified on Dynasty Twitter because everybody, you either love Traylon Burks or you're a ageist. And I think, I think that Tyler Lockett is fantastic, and especially for a contending team, he's going to be super undervalued. So you can go get him depending on what the team is that you're buying him from. You might be going to buy him from a rebuilding team, and they might be begging for somebody to come take Tyler Lockett from him.
yeah. I agree. If you could get Tyler Lockett as one of your flex guys, so yeah, I definitely would. I would jump on that. Absolutely.
So I know we kind of talked through the bench and some of the starters. I think overall, you and I have kind of said we want to get one. We want to try and use that first round pick, one of the first round picks on either a Gibbs or a Bijan to try and get a young running back in there to fix where Cam Akers is at. We're going to explore shopping Cam Akers. We're going to try and push Dalvin down to at least the running back 2. Maybe we can get him down to a flex. I don't know, but we want to get Dalvin out of that RB1 slot and maybe more to an RB2 slot. We mentioned that we, you know, we like Cole Kmet. We're not saying trade Cole Kmet, but we want to beef up the tight end room a little bit because I don't know if you can rely on Cole Kmet for most of the year, especially as a champion. And then we mentioned that Jahan Dotson, Traylon Burks, and Wandale Robinson, all of those guys could be traded or packaged to upgrade it a different position or something like that. But we want to keep Deontay Johnson, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so with all of that being said, um, I want us to just focus because we're getting close to the hour mark. So I want us to focus on the draft capital and how are we going to use the draft capital specifically. We've given you roster moves to make, possible trades to make, but let's talk about the draft capital for 2023. We've already touched on it. We said the 102 we're taking a running back or wide receiver, best non-QB available, maybe even trading that 102 back, and then at 106 we want to take our quarterback 3.
Yes, yes.
201 and 202, what kind of guys are we looking at there? I know you said to maybe trade 202 if you can go get a good player out of that, but assuming he keeps that and can't get a deal done, what kind of players are we looking at for 201, 202?
I'm taking the two. Okay. So earlier I said I would take the best tight end prospect available, but I think as we went on, I like the idea of
Trading for
trading
that?
2.6 for Waller and trading Wandale Robinson for a guy like Dalton Schultz. I like those moves a lot better
Mm-hmm.
for his team. So now if I'm sitting at 2.1, I'm definitely drafting. If there's a guy like Zach Charbonnet right there, I'm definitely taking him. I
Yeah.
think that his running back you can never have too many running backs or
Yeah.
wide receivers for that matter. But in his case, with as good as his wide receivers are, I feel like the best approach is to get as many running backs, value running backs as possible. And I think if you leave a draft with Gibbs, Bijan, or Charbonnet leave with two of those three, obviously you're not going to get Gibbs and Bijan. But one of those guys, Zach Charbonnet, I think that would be someone I'm looking at around that range.
Yeah, I think I'm on the same page as you. I think for those second round picks, I'd rather trade the 206 to go get my tight end depth, and I would rather just draft running back and wide receiver with those early seconds. Charbonnet's a name that I would look at. He might not even be around. I mean, I've seen where he's going like 9, 10, 11. So he may not be around come the 201 in a 12-team league, but I still think that there's guys like Devon Achane who could be a good running back that you could plug in there. I think he's going to get decent draft capital. Maybe there's a guy like, I mean, when it comes to running backs, it's all going to come on NFL draft capital. Guys who are getting drafted on day 2, really day 2 or before. If it's drafted day 3, you're not taking them that early. But other than that, I think you could look at guys like Zay Flowers out of Boston College. You could look at guys like, depending on how you feel about Jalen Hyatt. I'm not personally a big Jalen Hyatt guy, but depending on how you feel about him, you could go get a guy like, let's think. Why am I spacing? Really, I would be looking at Zay Flowers, Achane, Charbonnet, maybe Hyatt. I think I wouldn't be opposed to looking at.
What's the other guy named Abacaba? I don't know how to say his name.
Abanda.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think. I think you could get a Bandicanda at 2.6, but I don't think you would take him that early unless he goes day 2. If he goes day 2, then you might take him that early. I've seen rumors that the Rams, funny enough, the Rams have been looking at a Bandicanda. So
Yeah.
If they brought
This
him
is
in,
all based on what team drafts these guys. The only two guys that in this draft that are probably going to be location proof are Gibbs and Bijan. We know if they get drafted somewhere, there's more than likely they're starting. Like the rest of these guys, like if a Bandicanda gets drafted by the Bears, which is something I heard earlier, if he gets drafted by the Bears, I wouldn't hesitate so much to think that he could take the job over Herbert or Foreman. So, it all depends on landing spots.
Yeah. I mean, you could go get a guy, Tank Bigsby, Sean Tucker. There's all these guys that you could possibly look at. But the reality of it is that you're going to be able to get a bench running back and a bench wide receiver with those early seconds. Now, I alluded to it earlier, and I want to know your opinion on War because he has 2 first-round picks in 24. He has 2 second-round picks in 24. He has a third and a fourth. So basically, he has his whole draft class, plus he's gained an extra first and an extra second. As a contender, do you want to sell the extra first and the extra second to go in and win the championship this year?
I'm not even touching those 24 picks because I think, first of all, he has enough on his current roster and with the current draft capital to get what he needs to win a championship this season. Now, let's say that, dreams aren't fulfilled and he's not able to bring home the championship this season. But I for sure know if he goes to the next draft with that capital, he'll be able to put the exact finishing touches on his roster and probably dominate the entire league that season. So, I mean, I just like having that wiggle room in future years.
Yeah. I mean, the only reason why I say that is because and maybe that's something that you consider come your trade deadline. As the dominoes kind of fall and you see where you're landing in the league, maybe you look at it and you're like, hey, I'm in second place right now, but I'm one guy away from being the best team in the league. And maybe that's when you say, okay, I'm going to sell this first to, a team that's in last place. And maybe it's the one you project to be a little bit later. You're keeping the one that's going to be earlier. Maybe it's your own first, right? Because you think you're going for the championship. So you send your first over and you go get that finishing piece. It's, it could be a Brandon Ayuk or a Keenan Allen or whatever. At that point, you send that late first and you get that finishing piece. Maybe it's a guy who has Travis Kelce and you're like, hey, let's go get Travis Kelce for a first round pick right now. Like, I don't know. There's the fact that you have extra picks in 2024 makes you so lethal because you have flexibility, and it's not even flexibility that you have to tap into and use right now. It's flexibility that in 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks into the season, when people are starting to get injuries and guys are getting desperate, all of a sudden you can start wiggling these picks out and say, hey, I got some extra picks right here. If anybody wants them, send me your best offer. And before you know it, you might have a desperate guy in there trying to send you Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, you have the power to do so much with what you have. You definitely want to target the guy mid-season who's like, oh man, trust me, I've been that guy. Like,
Yep.
oh man, let me get ready for next year. This team isn't going nowhere. We got one win, and you might find a guy who's like, here, give me one of those first, and I'll give you a Stephon Diggs or like just some top tier veteran
Yep.
player. Somebody who wants to give you like Austin Eckler or something like that.
Absolutely. And that might be too a great spot. You could be targeting those aging running backs in your championship push.
Yeah.
So I think we've given you some good options to use. I think that, if you have any other questions or concerns about, what we said today, you're in the Discord, man. Tap in. Don't be afraid to shoot me a DM. Don't be afraid to do whatever. That's the perks of the Discord is you can hit me up whenever. You can post your roster. You can ask me questions, man. I'm giving opinions like it's candy on Halloween, man. So hit me up. Let me know what you think. I'd love to keep helping you build this roster and help you win a championship. But other than that, War, any final thoughts on the audit? Any final thoughts on the team? Any pieces of advice? Any final whatever? Is there anything you got left to say before we head out of here?
No, I think we definitely gave him some good options, and I've even gotten some ideas what to do with one of my teams based on this video. So I think I think we're good to go, man.
Yeah. Hey, no problem, man. He says, thank you so much for the roster review. Lots to think about. And that's the thing, man. You always want to be looking at your roster. And the funny thing about Dynasty Fantasy Football is your roster is never finished. It's never finished. There's always something you could do with it. So, again, thank you for allowing us to use your roster. I think we'll do this. I like this. Do you like this?
Oh yeah, I really do like it. I really do like it.
Yeah, so I think we'll do this again at some point. So if you if you're into the Discord, if you're not in the Discord, go get in the Discord because that's where we're doing the submissions for the trade reviews. If you haven't watched trade reviews and you want your trades reviewed, I know we had a couple questions on live. That's where we do that. I'm going to be doing a trade review episode probably as soon as I hang up this call with you. I'm going to start filming the next trade review. So go hop in there. When I need rosters to audit, that's where I'm asking them too. I just added everybody today and said, hey, I need a roster to audit. And that's when Spacenfeld jumped in and said, hey, do mine. So that's where it is. Go hop in the Discord. Otherwise, you're missing out. And really, I have nothing else to say, guys. We'll talk internally. We'll figure out what our next episode is going to be about. And, we'll be back next week. That's what we are. We're every week. So until then, thank you all for tapping in and letting us talk some Dynasty Fantasy Football with you. Hey, peace out, man.